Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It's time to go through some of the updated BR changes for April 2024 and also some clarifications that Gaijin have put in about specific vehicles and why they're moving them. What we're going to do in this video is we're going to talk about those clarifications and then we're going to talk about the updated BR changes. Should be interesting to have a look at, especially since there is a lot of vehicles right now which I feel like are a little bit higgledy-piggledy and a bit all over the place. So it'd be nice to see some clarifications on what they're deciding to do. First of all, we have ground forces, where obviously there's a lot of changes going around, but of course the first item on the list to talk about is the performance indicators of the 2S38. So the 2S38 corresponds to the average value at its rank without being low or high. However, like many other lightly armoured vehicles, the 2S38 has significant empty areas behind the turret and hull, where hits here can create situations with insufficient or no damage to critical modules. The 2S38 will be one of the first vehicles to receive additional internal details. Others will follow too, as will improve the layout of internal modules, add some new modules and revise old ones, in particular in the turret and turret compartment. So basically, they're not moving its BR, even though right now it's in a horrendous state and should be a higher BR because of the fact that right now people are not doing very good in it. This is something that we've seen over and over and over again in War Thunder and mainly affects the major nations, US, Germany and USSR, where because a lot of this stuff is based off kind of player statistics, which depending on which side of the fence that you sit on is either positive or negative. I err on the side of positive on these things, but it does lead to situations where certain premium vehicles, which are very good, get under BR'd because a lot of people flock to them and therefore don't use them properly. The 2S38 is one of those, which is one of the best multi-role vehicles in the game. Insanely good thermals, very good gun to kill tanks with, especially in areas where you're not just spamming the front of them. Very good at dealing with air targets too, and also with the thermals, with the mobility, and also the survivability is a hell of a scout and also an anti-air vehicle. It has everything. It's very similar to the Beglett Panzer in that way, and the Beglett Panzer was one of those that just kept going up and up and up, but the 2S38 has been stationary in its place all the time. The fact that they're not moving it up, but they're also going to add the additional internal detail to it is interesting, to say the least, because they're basically saying, yes, we know there's an issue here, and also we're going to try and fix it through game mechanics instead of moving its BR. Now, what they should do is they should up its BR, then add the additional internal details, and then down its BR. So therefore, it's not an issue between the time where it ends up, being played and annihilating people before these changes. But they're not going to do that because it doesn't correspond to the stats. It sucks. It is how it is. Very much unfortunate, and means that 10-0 Soviet lineup is still incredibly powerful, especially compared to some of the other nations. But then again, a lot of nations have good 10-3 lineups which can combat it pretty effectively. Also, an increase in battle ratings for the M18s has been a long time coming, and even without the engine power changes, the M18s would have been raised to 6.0 in this current battle rating proposal. We've revised the changes to the Super Hellcats battle rating so that the increase will only affect it for arcade battles, aligning it with the existing rating in realistic battles, without further increasing the battle rating in realistic. I've said it for many years, the Hellcat is very powerful. They decided to make it a light tank and decided to give it scouting, which enhanced its ability tenfold, meaning that you can use it as a vehicle to get into a cast plane pretty easily, and also use it for events to get captures, to get scouts, to get kills, and then flank and then do what you want. It's been part of a mainstay 5.7 American lineup for the longest time, and the only reason why it isn't as powerful anymore is because 6.7 has kind of taken over the meta, because they pushed up a lot of 7.0, 7.3 vehicles to 8.0 in some of the last decompressions. That's why I don't really think the M18 should go up, mainly because of the fact it gets up-tiered and into a pretty big black hole. Now that it's at 6.0, especially for a lot of nations, it's now in a black hole itself, and it's probably not going to see as much play, and that kind of sucks. Also, we don't plan to change the battle rating of the HSVL. The HSVL is always one which gets brought up, I don't know why, as its current effectiveness is sufficient to remain at its current battle rating without being lowered or increased. We've looked at your feedback on this vehicle regarding its ammunition and some of its capabilities. We'll make a decision taking into account possible changes to these proposals. The HSVL as a light scout vehicle is incredibly powerful. It's very, very good, and the comparisons that people make to something like a 2S38 is not really that good. They have completely different roles in the game, and you play them completely differently. And also, at the same time, the HSVL suffers from the same problem a lot of those vehicles have, where they get fully up-tiered or into the top tier quite a lot of the time, meaning that their effectiveness isn't as good as it could be. I'm actually going to play the HSVL soon, just because I've been kind of on a light tank kick recently, and we'll see how it is. Last time I played it, it was getting overrun by a lot of Soviets, but we were getting a lot of kills. There was too many targets to be able to deal with, which was unfortunately more of a team rate issue. They've also talked about the information about increasing the max battle rating for ground vehicles. This is obviously pretty important. In the future, we're planning to carry out additional decompression to the top ranks with an increase in the maximum battle rating. These changes will be carried out along with the introduction of the roadmap item relating to separating battle ratings for different modes. So basically something that will happen in the next major update, which we're currently working on. This is because changes to the battle ratings for top tier ground vehicles will require changes in the battle ratings of some attack aircraft, which will negatively affect their effectiveness in aerialistic battles if this change is made now. Unfortunately, as a person who is in or playing a lot of top tier ground recently, I really don't care about their effectiveness in aerialistic battles. I understand that Gaijin care because they want them to be useful in all of the modes, but that is an admission that there is vehicles in this game right now which are completely busted because of the current battle rating system. After admitting that, what you should do is you should do the opposite. You should make it so they are useful in the ground mode and useless in the air mode at this point in time. Instead of making them very powerful in the ground mode and then also making them not as powerful or competent in air realistic. That is the problem you have right now. So with this admittance, that's a bit of a problem. And that's going to be problems going forward, which kind of sucks. So we're still going to have issues until the next major update, and some of the other changes, such as removing their VT from the VEEC, is going to make this stuff a lot worse. For Aviation, they are moving around a bunch of vehicles. The Spitfire Mark 24 once again gets moved around. Basically, with the reduction of the MiG-15 and the F-86, the problem is going to be that the Mark 24 is going to run into them. It already is at a pretty bad BR bracket, but also, we've talked about this in the past, even many years ago. There is a problem with like high-tier props and low-tier jets, and even some of those low-tier jets being worse than the high-tier props. So it just creates this kind of weird mash. There's a few areas of the game which are like this, 6.7 to 7.7.0, and then also 9.0 to 9.3 or 8.7 to 9.3. And these are the trouble areas at the higher echelons where a lot of vehicles kind of get lost because they are just either too good for a certain BR bracket or not good enough for the other one. So they get stuck in the miasma. The Mark 24 is one of those, since it is pretty much the best prop in the game, and it means that it struggles, and it sucks. Also, we've seen proposals to, instead of reduce the battle rating of the MiG-15 and F-86, to increase the battle rating of the F-104 and similar aircraft instead. We've decided not to do this because it will not only affect the effectiveness of the MiG-15 and F-86, but will also worsen the competitiveness of the F-104 and other similar aircraft in other nations. Oh no, what a shame. What a shame. Instead of saving 8.0, 8.3, 8.7 and 9.0, you know what we're going to do? We're going to save 9.3, right? That is your decision at the end of the day. You are nuking a BR bracket. You are nuking 7.3, 7.7, 8.0 and 8.3 to save 9.3. Because 9.3 is the popular BR, because you put all of the monsters at 9.3, so everybody's gravitated to it. So you don't want to move it, because you don't want people to stop playing it. Ridiculous. You could just move up those monsters at 9-3. You know that they are powerful. You can see that they are powerful. You can see they're ending so many games just by themselves. Which is why playing 8-7, 9-0, 8-3 is just a pain. It's because of the 9-3 bracket. And if that means sacrificing some of them to Cthulhu or whoever, that's what should be done. But instead of sacrificing 3, 4, 5 vehicles, we are now sacrificing 30. It's crazy. Other aircraft at a battle rating of approximately 8.0 now show good statistics and don't require reduction or increase, but after the changes, we'll also closely monitor their performance. They show good statistics right now because all of the 8.7s that used to exist have been eaten by 9.3, such as the MiG-15 BIS, the F-86, and so on, which is why you're moving them down. So now they won't show good statistics. They'll get hammered. They will get malleted in the brain because all of these, the F-86, the MiG-15, the MiG-15 BIS, all of these will just hammer them into the ground. That's what will happen. Just like what used to happen when 8790 was the popular one, with the addition of stuff like the Shenyang, the MiG-17 AS, and all of these, which is when a lot of these BR changes started because of the issues that were being caused. Also, based on numerous comments from your feedback and after reviewing the statistics and capabilities of the aircraft, we've decided to reduce the battle rating of the G91Y and YS to 9.0 and 9.3 respectively. Well, that's nice, you know, positive change, since those vehicles were always in a little bit of a rough state. They're still going to be in a rough state, but, you know, it'll be nicer to play them now. I actually give them a go. We'll see. We'll see what goes on. Maybe we should start filling that 10-0 bracket. Maybe that's the way that you actually fix this issue that you're talking about, instead of just having this black hole 10-0 BR bracket, which is going to completely change in the next update, because you're going to bring in those, you know, alternate BRs for different modes. So probably the SU-25 and the A-10, some of the only vehicles at 10-0 are going to move. But let's not do that. Instead, let's just keep filling that bracket. We've also decided not to increase the BR of the AMX. While its good missile armament and assault capabilities make it quite effective, the performance characteristics may not allow it to fight effectively at higher battle ratings. Once again, this is a vehicle which, as I said, should go up in BR right now, and then they should drop its BR in a realistic and other game modes when they bring in that separate battle ratings for different modes. Because at this moment in time, in ground realistic, you cannot kill it. Right? Just like a lot of these vehicles, once it gets into the air, once it gets above the battlefield, which always happens every time when one team is in the ascendancy, you cannot fight it. So instead of doing these measures to try and keep them competitive in all modes, what you should be doing now is making them so they are competitive in only one of the modes, and then later on in the next major update, bringing forward those battle rating changes for the different modes, right? And that will actually give you impetus to bring in that set of changes. Because if you don't bring those in, these vehicles will just crucify BR brackets, which they are already doing at this time. The F5U FCU will also be lowered to battle rating 11.0. This aircraft has good armament, however, combined with its flight characteristics at its current battle rating, it does not have enough capabilities to effectively combat aircraft with higher battle ratings. I haven't played the F5E FCU. I know how good the standard F5E is at 10.7. I'm sure the FCU is also completely fine. The major issue is, of course, the area around it, but I can't really speak because I haven't really gone through it. Also, we've also received a lot of feedback regarding changes to the missile research modifications branch for the Barak 2. To keep you updated in the next major update, adjustments will be made to the modifications research branch for this aircraft, meaning that they'll be probably getting new missiles, so enjoy those missiles as they come in. They're also adding a reduced battle ratings for aircraft of the Korean War, so this is obviously the F-86 MiG-15 debacle, which they've already talked about. The main changes to the balance of aircraft in this update are focused on a reduction in the battle ratings for a group of aircraft from the Korean War period, as well as vehicles similar to them in terms of combat characteristics. These aircraft under the current conditions show a rather low level of efficiency, so reductions are intended to help this situation. In addition to this, Some of the vehicles among them that lack missiles will no longer be able to get into battles against attack aircraft with all-aspect IR missiles. This change is intended to improve the comfort of the game and reduce the number of hopeless situations in battle. Well done. It's only taken you 2 years. It's only taken you 2 years to do it, and you've done it the wrong way round. So instead of, you should not bring those down, you should have pushed the 9.3s up, okay? Should have done that. These vehicles also can't fight all-aspect missiles anyway, because the Su-25 and the A-10s are at 10.0. The vehicles you're talking about were at 8.7. They couldn't fight them anyway, so I don't know what you're on about at the when it comes to those. The problem is 9.3. The problem's 9.3. It's been the problem for the longest time. Go play the Lightning F6, go play the F104A, go play the F104C, go play these vehicles, alright? You will see that's the problem. It's the 9.3 hole, okay? Jaguar even GR1 if you want to throw that one in with its AIM-9Gs, right? You've got 9.3 and then you got 10.3. Those are the meta BRs, where a lot of vehicles sit and are really good. 11.0 is also pretty good too. So what you need to do is you need to bump up the 9.3s. I know you don't want to because a lot of people play them and a lot of people do pretty well in them. And the reason why you don't want to bump it up probably is because you don't want those people to stop playing those vehicles. But guess what? All those guys playing those vehicles will just go play something else. They do it every time. They just follow the meta stuff, right? And hopefully with these changes that'll fix the 9.3 bracket. I don't think it will, but all we can do is hope. In the next video, we'll go through the extra BR changes that they're doing. And as always, I hope you have a wonderful day. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Tullio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pieman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Alan Hacker, Ozzy Panzer, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Cam Arslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.